everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do a quick Q&A. I didn't get that many questions this time round. I don't know if that's the algorithm or just people didn't have that many questions, but I opened it on YouTube and Instagram. So normally I don't get through all of them, but I think today I'm definitely going to get through all of them. But apologies if I get too chatty. You know what I'm like. Okay, so we're just going to go straight in. First question is, more free motion embroidery tutorials and tips for beginners, please. So I don't do a lot of free motion embroidery on my YouTube channel because I do private and online workshops for that. I haven't started my in-person ones yet, but I am planning to later this year. But online I do have a beginners, like a really in-depth beginners free motion embroidery course on my website. It's through Vimeo. And basically you buy the workshop and then it's yours forever, and that is where I send most people if you are learning online and you can't wait or you can't come see me in person. That is the place to go, because that is my whole beginners free motion course in one video. So that is definitely where I send you. I'll put all the links down below. And then on top of that, my Patreon page is mostly free motion. So I have a little donation Patreon that you can contribute to this channel, but my main one is a free motion one where every month we do a different prompt and different craft ideas, and I take you through a tutorial on how to do them and spark some ideas in your own free motion embroidery. But if you've never ever done it before, I would suggest you go and do my online workshop first and then head to the Patreon, and then you'll learn like loads of extra things when you become more confident. Because I think if you dive straight into the Patreon, you might pick up a few things, but you won't have like the foundations to make it easier. So you might find it a little bit overwhelming to start with. So go to my online course first and then do the Patreon after. Right, how to keep sewing straight lines. So I do have a little short, I think I put it on Instagram and YouTube shorts actually, of a little tip for you on sewing straight lines. So again, I will try and link, I don't know how you link shorts, but I'll try and link that video below for you as well. But essentially, your seam allowance guides on your machine are your best friend, and you'll essentially follow that line instead of watching your needle. I think a lot of people watch the needle and then they sort of like lose concentration because it's moving around so much, and then you forget your seam allowance. So use your guides on your machine, and if you struggle with following those lines or if they're too small, my tip is to put a piece of washi tape or painter's tape or masking tape across your whole machine, and then you've got a much larger line to follow, and that should keep your lines much straighter. Any tips for sewing with silk? Well, yes, I have lots of tips, but I struggle sewing with silk, and I'm one of those people that when I get sewing, I just want stuff to be finished, and I'm not very good at waiting. Sometimes I'm in the mood to do things slower and take the time with them, but I think now that I don't get a lot of time to sew, I am really trying to slow down a little bit and just enjoy the process, but I'm a bit more like, I want it done now. So sewing with silk it's not difficult, it's just time consuming, and you do need to think a lot more about everything. So things like pattern weights, they do move around. So just starting off with cutting, I would still use a rotary cutter so I'm not lifting up the fabric, but if you use pattern weights, sometimes the pattern weights slip on the silk itself. So I actually use pins, and also with the cutting out, don't do it, you know how we're very used to having things cut on the fold so you have two layers. Try and cut things out on one side at a time. So if it's cut two pieces, cut one, then flip the pattern piece and cut the other one. Don't try and cut two at the same time, because the fabric itself slides on itself, so that can make things like a little bit more difficult. If your cutting mat is quite slippery as well, and you don't mind sort of like cutting up something underneath, you could put like a piece of scrap cotton or something that you don't mind cutting through, just so that it's got a little bit more friction underneath, so that it's not going to move around your cutting mat as you're going around it with the rotary cutter. But yeah, I always pin my pattern pieces on with silk, just to stop it moving, so that at least I find with pattern weights you'll put them on and then the paper might slide on top of the silk a little bit, so by the time you've gone round it, when you sort of like move and take the rest of the fabric away, some of it's got more seam allowance, some of it's got less seam allowance, and then the pattern piece is a little bit wonky. So pin, put some friction of some kind underneath. I have seen people put tissue paper on both top and bottom, as in paper piece on top, tissue paper underneath. That can work sometimes as well. Yeah, pins and rotary cutter is the cutting. With the sewing, get yourself some sharps needles. Fine needles that won't make lots of holes as you're sewing. It will just glide through a little bit, and make sure you've got some decent thread in there as well, so it's not going to cause you too much aggravation. But yeah, a sharps needle and cutting tips, and just take it really slow and steady. If you have the option to slow down your machine, then I would recommend that. And pin within an inch of its life. You can't put too many pins in it when it's slippery. Just put as many pins as you can, and try using dressmakers pins and not like thick cheap pins, because the cheap pins will leave holes in it. Just a little extra tip for you if you're working with slippery fabrics, use dressmakers pins. Okay, next one. I'd love to know how you got started making PDF patterns. So it's quite, well, it's not funny. I was going to say it's a funny story, but it's not funny at all. I have been writing projects for years for publications. I've written projects for Molly Makes on occasion, and then on a regular basis, as in like a monthly basis, I was working for Crafts Beautiful magazine. And before that I was working for Crafts Beautiful and Homemaker magazine when Homemaker was around. And then I've done a few other projects in some other sewing magazines. So essentially every single month I would be writing projects, sometimes 2 or 3, for different publications, online and in the magazine. And I just really enjoyed coming up with ideas, and they'd sometimes give me a theme and I could create something to a theme. And with that I would write, you know, full instructions and make samples and make pattern pieces. So it just became quite a normal thing for me to do, and I'm one of those people that I have 1,000 creative ideas all of the time, so I love getting things into a physical product because it just sparks an idea, and I'm like, oh, I could do this and this to this theme, and I just love it. So sadly all of the publications that I wrote for during COVID all slowly one by one disappeared. So, you know, it was really sad that all these publications closing down, but it just wasn't feasible to run them anymore, which is super sad. I think a lot of people don't really buy magazines anymore, but I was one of those people that I love a magazine. I love like a tangible physical thing to read. But I know there's tons of like tutorials and stuff online now for free, so you know, why would you buy a magazine anyway? But I still think that if you want to make something and you want to make sure it's good, you would be happy to pay for it. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I know when I create something I do it really well, and my instructions are clear and my diagrams are clear, and I do a video tutorial as well, and I'm just really confident in writing tutorials. That's, I think, because I'm a tutor and a teacher of sewing, I find writing patterns quite easy, and I just love it. So I put up a few free ones to start with on my website, and now slowly I'm adding occasional PDF patterns and workshops, and basically they're all things that I've written in the past and I've just like tweaked them slightly, or they're things that I created for our after school club or some workshops we used to do. I would create different patterns and different things for that. So I have thousands, and hopefully I will get into more of a swing of creating them and then putting them on the website so that you can see lots of them. You know what it's like with me, it's just finding the time. So my little one is at toddler group right now, that is why I can film. Nana has been a saviour again, taking her to toddler group. It's a miserable day, so I thought, right, I can go to the shed, do some filming, and then that's this week's video ticked off. There's always stuff going on. It's like finding 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. It's like always a little bit like, ah. But yeah, I just love it. So if you're interested in my PDF patterns, I will put some more links in the description. My latest one is that cube doorstop, which I loved making, and it was one of the really popular things we used to make with our after school club. But then loads of the parents started asking if I could teach them how to do it so they could make it for Christmas presents and things like that. So I just thought, do you know what, it was a great, nice workshop to do, so I'm just going to put that one on the website. And it's got a video tutorial as well alongside it as a printable PDF, so easy peasy to follow. And yeah, I hope you like it. But there will be lots more to come. Okay, the next one did make me laugh. What are your plans going forward? I don't know anymore. I am just trying my best to find time to work. I definitely want to do... My goal was to do another online workshop this year. And one thing that I've been asked for time and time again is my Zips workshop. And so I really want to film that. I used to teach a course called Zips 101 when I had the sewing school, and it was really popular and really in depth, and so I want to bring that as like an online course so that you can have a video that you can always refer back to. So that will hopefully be coming this summer if all goes well and I find some time to do it. On top of that, I really want to do more PDFs, like I said, so there's lots more of that coming. And apart from that, I just want a little bit more time here and there to do some sewing for myself. I've been wanting to make a quilt out of my little one's baby outfits since he grew out of them. And he's almost 2 and I haven't started it. I just have a pile of baby things. So yeah, little things like that I just wish I had a little bit more time for. And I know that will come because he's starting nursery and all that stuff. So slowly I can start ticking these work things and personal things off. But my plans are kind of up in the air and I'm just going with the flow of life and seeing what I can achieve in the time that I have. So yeah, and hopefully you'll enjoy coming along for the ride with me. Okay, another one about upcoming plans and stuff, so I think I've covered that. What are you working on at the moment? Nothing. I have been just doing like the odd YouTube tutorials, and I finished a big commission for another company recently, and I can't really tell you about that yet because it's not being released. It's being released on International Women's Day, so that might give you a clue. Apart from that, I have nothing I'm working on right now, which is quite nice actually. So my next sort of goal tutorial, which is actually going to be a free tutorial, is I really want to redo my overlocker videos again, mainly because I get so much negative feedback on my original one. And I get it. I filmed it on a worse quality camera years and years ago with bad lighting, and I didn't have a different lens that I could zoom in really fine. So you know, like tutorials now, I can zoom in quite hard on the needle. I did an overlocking threading video, and obviously I didn't zoom in enough, and people just give me ag all the time about that video. So I really want to refilm that soon. And then on top of that, I sort of thought, oh, I really want to get back into a few overlocker tips and tricks, because that's another thing that I get asked quite a lot of. So I'm hopefully, if I get my act together and make a plan, I'm going to start my overlocker series again. I'm going to refilm that threading video and then add a few more tips and tricks lessons, just like short things so that you can find them easily on my page when you need them. Is the sewing studio finished? Do you know what, at this point I'm just gonna say yeah, because I can easily work in the environment that I'm in. I think you can worry too much about things looking perfect, and it's cluttered and it's messy, but I'm just trying to get rid of a lot of stock that I still have. I've put it all on the website now, so if you fancy anything and you're in the UK or abroad, I don't mind posting abroad, I've got so much stuff on there that's all half price or more, from patterns, haberdashery, everything. So if it's of interest, please go on my website and check it out. I've got loads of craft kits and stuff, and once I've sort of like narrowed down all of that stuff that I've still got left over, then I will have a bit more space to sort of go through stuff. But at the moment, it's working. I can work in it fine. It is claustrophobic, but I'm quite happy working in here. It is a shed at the end of the day as well, so half of it, that corner is like all shed stuff, and then the rest of it is mine. So yeah, it's working. That's all I can say. So yes and no. Maybe in a few years' time it will look really different, but I'm just going for that it'll evolve as I evolve kind of thing. I remember when you used to sew items and sell them at markets. Oh, you've been here a long time. Would you ever do that again? No. And I don't want to put anyone off doing things like that. But I did it for years, and I think I'm more confident in what I'm doing now than what I was doing back then. And it is hard work, and I think, and I really don't want to be negative about craft markets and stuff, because I still love going to craft markets, and if, you know, there's loads around my local area at Christmas, I love going to them and buying like really individual presents for people, and you know, I love looking around craft market. I just think it's such a nice buzz and seeing all the creativity and stuff. But I find that I'm lucky because I know what it's like. But I think a lot of people don't value handmade items as much as they used to. And we are in a financial crisis and everyone is penny pinching. But I feel like with handmade stuff, even before this, when I was at markets, I would do some really big shows, and some of them I would be really successful at. But at the same show, which I was like, yeah, it's going really well, the amount of people that would go, oh gosh, that's expensive, or oh, that's expensive, or oh, I could make that, or you could make that, we could make that next week, or let's just do that, like, do you want to take a picture of it? And you just be like, are you joking? Like, that is my hard work and my idea and my design, and it took me ages to source that fabric and those colourways and the quality of it. And, you know, I did 15 samples before I came up with that exact size and how I did it, because I wanted it to be perfect. And then someone comes up and says that, one, it's too expensive, and two, they can make it themselves. It's just a bit like, it's fine to think it, don't get me wrong. Like, if you are good at sewing and you see something and you're like, oh, I'd love to make that, and you want to go home and make it, that's fine. But don't tell me. Like, don't tell me, and don't, like, make it obvious, and don't take pictures of it. Like, the amount of times I used to say to people, like, oh, do you mind not taking a picture of it? And they're like, oh, why? And I said, well, because it's my own design. And they're like, oh, sorry. And you're a bit like, I don't know. Some markets I used to get so disheartened because of the comments I used to get. But then equally, at the same time, people would be lovely and they would buy things and they would love all my I did a lot of personalised stuff. And that was where I really made my bread and butter, was all the personalised items. And I love doing that. And I still do occasional commission work. I do free motion portraits and like pet portraits and things like that. And I still love doing that. Yeah, the thought of going back to those markets again, it's just not something I really want to do. But if you are doing them, then keep going, because my tips for you would be, experiment with a few different cheaper markets first, and then see which ones are the most successful. Secondly, if you sell out of, for example, all your makeup bags one market, don't go back to the same market and then make double those makeup bags, because I can guarantee you that that time you won't sell any. Just do your normal sort of numbers of like a few bits of this, a few bits of that, and just see what sells. And if people are interested, you can give them your card and be like, you know, I'm at this market next, so let me take your number down, and be quite like, let me take your email address and number, and I will call you when I've got another one, and I can send it to you, or you can come to this market, or blah, 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 blah. I think so many mistakes I made was that I was like, oh, I sold out of all of those makeup bags. The next time I made, like, instead of 15, I made 30, and then I didn't sell any. And then I got tons of these blooming makeup bags sitting around, and then I have to wait to the next market to try and flog them. And eventually you sort of like slowly work your way down until there's a few, and then once there's a few, everyone's bored of them now, and then you end up selling them at a discount. Little things like that used to drive me insane. So like, don't go overboard with your stock. If you want to do the big markets, like big shows, great, but try and treat it as like a marketing event rather than a sales based event. get some really nice flyers, business cards, things like that, and just make yourself stand out so that when people go home, you know, and they go through all the hundreds of postcards that they picked up on their way round, yours is like really bright and cheerful, and it has like your products on the card. So people are like, oh yes, I remember that, and then they'll stick it somewhere because they were like, that would be great for blah blah's birthday. I think I see too many people craft things just having like little tiny postcards with their details on, which is great if they know who you are. But if they don't, then you need to sort of like have larger things with your items on that so that it stands out. I feel like I'm giving you a marketing lesson. You might already just ignore me if you don't want to listen to this, but just in case, these are all the things that I learned over years and years to do these markets. And my third thing is try and make your stool as like easy to put up and down as possible and not too cluttered. Try making like different height things so that there's like a nice display going around you like that. I see so many people have like just a table and it's just covered in stuff that when you walk past you're a bit like, whoa, and then sometimes you get so overwhelmed. My tip is people get overwhelmed with too much choice, so don't give them too much choice. It's fine to have more stuck underneath, but don't feel like you have to put everything out. And that is the end of my craft fair TED talk. So I'm sorry if you didn't want to listen to all of that, but they are a few tips for you if you're interested. And I'm really sorry if I was negative, but yeah, I think I'm in a different place with my business now, so I can't imagine going back there. I think I'm losing my voice. Okay, so that's all the questions. I hope this little chatty vlog was of interest to you, and sometimes I forget that it's just nice to sit down and chat about stuff. So if there's anything else that you want me to do, chatty, non-chatty, I've got loads of tutorials written down that I want to do in the next few months, so don't comment with any tutorials that you want because I'm slightly overwhelmed by my to-do list at the moment. But yeah, if you want me to do some chatty ones in between, or you want to, I don't know, I could start making my baby quilt and I could just have you next to me and I could be like chatting and doing it. If that's of interest, then please let me know, because so yeah, maybe that's a way for me to get some content filmed and get some personal sewing done as well. Just me being selfish. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed, then please subscribe because I would love that. Comment below if you have any questions for me, and I will see you next week for another video. Happy handmade, everyone.